Welcome to the Knoxville Nationals edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Brands. I'm Jeremy Elliott. We're joined by Corey Kneeshaw of Circa Sports. Ryan Hand is, as we speak, working on a car somewhere on the grounds at Knoxville. I guess it's public now that he is working on a car. So any bets he has about the last, 4 years of not being working on a car, I guess he's going to lose them. But like I said, our Knoxville Nationals edition of the podcast is going to be quick. It's going to be painless. We're here with Corey. Corey plays Lonnie Wheatley's pools. He has his own pool, which, by the way, I'm second.
Yes, you are.
Just saying. But it could be bad, though, at the end. The Jacksonville Nationals, I had to rob Peter to pay Paul, but I did save Brad Sweet for that one.
That was a good choice. Either it seemed like it was either Peevely, people took him, or they saved him for Jackson. So very few have him. Some have him for Knoxville, but it seems like those were the two tracks people saved him for.
Well, it is all about Knoxville. And I think before we get into you rate the top 60 drivers?
No, I ranked them all this year.
Jesus. I can't imagine. You're a former teacher, right?
I am a former teacher.
This explains a lot.
Yes.
But yeah, you rank all the drivers who are in the field. We're going to break down Wednesday versus Thursday. We're going to look at maybe some sleepers, why you did what you did. But first, in segment one, we're going to take a look at what happened last week that maybe affect these rankings or affect kind of how you break down the Knoxville Nationals. And I think the first thing is obviously the Capitani Classic. That is an event that we had 69 guys this year. Normally we have in the 80s, but I think tire shortages and other things and one notable who wasn't here, and I'll get your thoughts on this right out of the gate, is Brent Marks decided to take off the whole weekend, did not run the Ironman, did not run the Capitani Classic, did not run the Front Row Challenge. He's ready for Wednesday.
I think for that team, I think it was a great decision because, why do you need to go out and race? They've shown this year with the schedule that they've had, they're able to show up anywhere, run anytime, and they've won. He's won against the Outlaws, he's won against the All-Stars, he's won out of Dora. I mean, what else more does the guy have to prove? He didn't need to show up here. He came here in June when the Outlaws were here for the 2-day show, and he beat them the first night. I mean, the guy's dialed in. He's ready to go. I'm looking forward to seeing him tomorrow night race.
Yeah, me too. And I agree. This team does things their own way. I know a lot of people seem to feel they deserve an explanation for this. I don't understand it. Look, they're doing it the right way. They meet as a group and they make their decision, and they decided to, hey, we're going to take some time off. I mean, Danny Dietrich isn't even here. He's taking off, going on vacation, not racing in Central PA this week. And I think that is good for him as well, just kind of shift gears because he's bad in September usually.
And I think what happens with the Brent Marks situation with people, is it was on a schedule for a while that he was going to be at the Capitani. He was going to be at the Front Row. I heard an interview a couple weeks ago from him, not sure where, that says that the Capitani was in play, but the Front Row Challenge, he was iffy if he was going to do it because of the whole tire situation, the shortage. And so I think from a standpoint, people, I'll say, who are doing the pools, I think they're a little upset because it was on the schedule. So some people did pick him, but you know what? They got to do what they got to do. They did this the day race at Eldora where they chose not to race. Yep. Look what happened. Had no effect on them that night for the Kings Row.
No. So enough of Brent Marks. I think it's silly to any criticism he gets.
Absolutely.
But Capitani Classic, Logan Shoehart gets the win. And why I think this is significant is 2 of the last 3 years, the winner of the Capitani Classic has won the Knoxville Nationals, aka 2018, it was Brad Sweet. 2019, it was David Gravel. Now last year, Gravel won it, and he was running in the top 5 and broke. I think he might have lost a motor, if I'm not mistaken. So Kyle Larson gets the win. So do you put any importance on the fact that Logan Shoehart won the Capitani Classic?
Not as much, because it's one race. I like to, look at what they've been doing the last 15 races. I like to see the momentum that they're gaining coming into to the Nationals. I think that, to me, that's more indicative of kind of where they're running than one race. It was good to see Logan qualify well. He got through his heat race at the Capitani, which helped him put him up front. Logan struggled on qualification night here at the Nationals last couple of years, but qualified good. He gets stuck in those inverts in row 3 or 4, and he hasn't made it through the heat race. He has to come from the B. And when you see him come through the B, start in the back, he can get up to about 8, 7, 6.
Yeah.
But he showed what he could do when he starts up the front here at Knoxville. So, but can they do it consistently? That's their biggest thing. They always seem to lately. Something seems to break. He's leading, a flat tire happens. He just has that kind of dumb luck, you would say.
Well, and in the one year he missed his scales. I hate to bring it up, but he did.
Yep.
And I think time trials and that heat race are more critical than even the A main for his qualifying night. He goes Wednesday. Again, both nights are loaded. I think Thursday personally is deeper.
I would agree.
We're going to go into that shortly. But Logan, that qualifying deal and that heat race, he's got to make it through that heat race. I even think the heat race for him might be more important than time trials, just because so many things have happened during that heat race, or again, getting qualified well. But he looked good, and I think, just shifting to the guy who finished second, he lost the lead to Donnie Schatz and had to pass him back.
And that itself was impressive with how he did that, because,
Yep.
It was a great track Sunday night, especially after the rain, once the rain happened. And
Yep.
it was a phenomenal. You had 2 grooves. It was typical Knoxville track right there on Sunday night. And for him to get passed by Donnie, but then to come back and pass him, that showed me a lot right there with him being able to do that to Donnie, who we'll get into Donnie here in a little bit, but it was impressive.
It was, and I'm going to start right now because I saw Donnie use the bottom, saw him use the middle, and I saw him even use the top, and it looked like Donnie won 10 of these Knoxville Nationals. And I know in the press conference afterwards, he alluded to, there's no rhyme or reason how you run this place now. It's not the same as it was 5 years ago. Maybe a little gamesmanship there. I don't know, but he looked like Donnie of old. And before we even get to the last segment, I'm picking him to win Saturday's Knoxville Nationals. I thought he should have won it last year. That when the caution came out was a little sketchy to me. And if the rubber comes in when he's leading, maybe Kyle doesn't get him. Regardless, it was a great race. But I think Donnie is in Knoxville Nationals form.
I would 100% agree with it. We'll get to my rankings here in a little bit with it, and last month or so I've been sending you my updates of the rankings,
which I appreciate, by the way.
And so there was a significant jump with Donnie, but for good reason, because of track history here, but also with what he's been doing the last 10 races. Not just Knoxville, but just out. We're starting to see a lot more of the old Donnie at some of these races, and Sunday night to me was old Donnie, and it's nice to see.
I saw his car today. He unveiled the CarQuest car. It was white. It was kind of the red, white, and blue, and I still like that yellow. I think it's the nicest car he's ever had. I told him that. I'm digging the black and yellow and a little red trim, but that's another story. But no, Donnie looks really good. I think a guy who maybe is flying under the radar is Parker Price Miller. 360 Nationals, made it through the B main, had some problems on his qualifying night, charges the 13th. In a 360 event, it's hard to pass.
It is, yes.
At this place. So he gets the 13th, then comes out for the the Cappy, and he finishes 5th. His speed.
It was, and when you look at it, it was oh my gosh, where'd he come from?
Yeah.
It really was. And he was solid. He was running low. He was running up high. If you could say it was a quiet 5th, it really was. But he does. They have a lot of speed. That car has always had speed.
Yes.
The thing is, though, over the last couple of years, they haven't particularly done well here at the Nationals with the McGee Motorsports car. I think that's a little bit different this year. I think they've got a driver who's been here, who's been in the Nationals before. Parker Price he's right up there in the All-Stars this year. He time trials really well. And
consistent.
For the Nationals format, you need to have that. You need to be able to time well. And that's one of the things they can do.
Yeah, I like the whole. Obviously, if you can't set quick time, you always want to set quick time. But if you can get in that 10 to 12 range, that 10 to 15 range, you can really you can make it through that into the A main through your heat race, and then do some damage there, because there's going to be guys who miss it through the heat
Yes.
race just because of the format, because of the inversion, and then get enough points to lock yourself in the A. And I think Parker Price Miller is one of those guys. I think he's going to time in the top 12, and I think he's going to be able to make it through in his heat race. I'm not really sure how the car is in dirty air if he starts back in the heat race too far, like back in that row 3, 4. But otherwise, you put him in those first few rows, and I think he's going to do some major damage.
I definitely, I would agree with that. I think that if he can, get a front 2 or 3 starting row in the main event for the prelim night, I think he definitely has a good chance to top 5 that. It's when they're back in the dirty air, and you've seen this within the all-star races this year, when he starts in the 7th, 8th, 9th row, he doesn't necessarily move up to the front.
Right.
When he gets in those front couple rows, though, he's dangerous.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about dirty air now, because we're going to talk about, well, first, before we get to that, look, Brad Sweet, he's the reason that I knew it's been a while since he won in a half mile, just saying. But he did it at Williams Grove, Summer Nationals. And then he comes out and wins the Ironman. And I thought he dominated the Ironman. I thought he was the fastest car all weekend. He kind of got caught on the prelim night behind Marcus Dumpsney. And I don't think he didn't handle the lap traffic well. Maybe he was conservative, but he came out and dominated the next night. And Brad Sweet, pedestrian 4th place finish in the Capitani Classic, was faster at the end. I think Brad Sweet's definitely going to be a factor. I had him, and I think I might have said to you, I had him winning the Knoxville Nationals until I saw the Capitani Classic with the way Donnie performed. But Brad Sweet's going to be right there.
Oh, absolutely. One thing with Brad's always consistent. We've talked a lot about, this year, especially about the half miles. I think it was 38 wins on 38 winless streaks on half mile tracks before he finally won, out of all places, Williams Grove.
Which yeah,
but he still has not won at this place since he won the Nationals in 2018. So it's, for me,
he won a weekly show, but it's not as.
No, he won. Yeah, he did. He won a weekly show in May of 2019, but he has not won an outlaw show here since 2018. That's now going 4 years that he, 4 years, over 20 races now. So, but with Brad, he looked good. He looked good Sunday night. He did. He had speed in qualifying, speed in the heat race. And like you said, he was one of the better cars coming at the end on Sunday night in the race.
David Gravel, who normally excels at the Capitani Classic, he's won 2 of them, didn't look as good. And again, Gravel's an interesting year to me, because he's been fast at times. He qualifies like a banshee. I mean, that guy, there isn't probably anybody in the country who qualifies as well as David Gravel. However, he draws terrible in the dashes we've seen this year. And he'll tell you that. Now, there was that spell last year where he drew the 1 a lot, like AKA Bristol. He had a string there. But this year's been different. Now, he's not drawing for a dash, but my concern is the dirty air. Being back in row 4, being in dirty air, that's where I need to see a little more. And I think that's a fair assessment. Would you agree?
I absolutely would agree with it. You just missed the invert in the for the redraw on Sunday. He was, I think, 5th, and they take the top 4 from each flight for the redraw. So that put him in 9th. And, I still recall back to 2017 when he was driving for CJB, and in the heat races here, and even in the main event, he was sitting there driving a line that nobody else would drive, about 2 car lengths above the cushion there. And I keep waiting to see that David Gravel come back and drive again, because he did something we've never seen here since days of Steve Kinzer.
Right.
And that was very impressive when he did that. In that car, he would have won had they not broke through a rod, on lap 23 of that main event. I know Donnie won, but
I never count that guy out.
I think Gravel had the best car.
Well, we're not going to agree the whole time.
But he is somebody who cannot be in
Right.
dirty air for long. He needs to be out front. He needs to qualify well. He'll get through his heat race. He's going to start 6th, 7th, or 8th in the prelim with the invert. He needs to get up high real quickly, and he needs to dispose of as many guys as he can. If he can't, he's going to be stuck back. He's just going to kind of be stuck back there. But it's not just a Knoxville thing. That is the thing with David Gravel at each and every track. He just doesn't come through the traffic well.
The only exception where that car, Weedsport, he started 9th and he came up to 2nd. He was the best car. Donnie won, but I think lap traffic played out well for Donnie, and Donnie's a master at that. So, but David Gravel won to watch after seeing the Capitani Classic. And then we're going to get to Kyle Larson. I thought when I came out here, I got out Saturday for 360 Nationals finale. After, I saw Kyle was running 360s, and I thought, okay, this is over. Finished 11th in the 360 Nationals. Goes to the front row challenge, dominates. He said last night that he hasn't felt really good lately in the car, and he's timed. Sometimes this year he hasn't timed as well as we were used to seeing. Of course, the bar's set way high. But last night he dominated, and he said he felt better, which I thought was critical. I still think Thursday night he's the favorite. I don't think the 360 Nationals matters at all. How about you?
I was shocked by that because Paul Silva has experience here in the 360
4 straight
with Shane Stewart. Yeah. So I was kind of, a little surprised about that. Last night I saw a different Kyle, which we saw last year when we were at Oskaloosa. He drives it into the corner so much harder than everybody else does.
Right.
And that's where he makes up his ground when he does that. And then he drives it in so hard, and then he just pins it and just comes off of it harder than anybody else. And that's why he won that race last night at Oskaloosa. And it was just, that's what I've been waiting to see. I had Brent Marks number 1 in my rankings all the way up until last night. I had Kyle number 2, and for good reason, but after seeing that last night and just seeing how he drove, and then talk about him talking after about, okay, now I'm starting to get comfortable. You get a comfortable Kyle, that's scary.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point about his entry speed. His entry speed is incredible. And I think he does. That's where he makes a lot of his ground up on guys. I think that's where he beats guys. And look at you using the eye test. Normally, you're just a numbers guy, straight numbers. You use the eye test.
Yeah,
I'm impressed.
And that's,
I didn't expect that from you.
And that's the thing about coming out here so early, being able to, seeing the Capitani, seeing Oskaloosa, you get a chance to see some things. And there were a couple guys who I was maybe down upon. But after seeing them in the Capitani and Oskaloosa last night, they went up my list, and we'll talk about them a little later.
Well, we're going to get into it. That's going to wrap up segment 1, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Brands. We are live here at the Knoxville Nationals. Stay tuned for segment 2, where we look at the rankings and break down each night. Stay tuned. Welcome back to segment 2, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Brands. And we are at the Knoxville Nationals. We're up in a suite at Knoxville Raceway. I'm Jeremy Elliott, joined again by Corey Kneeshaw, Circa Sports. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. You're sitting in for Ryan Hand. We're going to have you on anyway. I'm going to beat you in a Wheatley poll. I just want to throw that out there. It's a bold statement, God.
That is. So, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, well, no, because you do really well at it. You and Kevin Swindell. Kevin's staying at a hotel, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, and he has no system. Like he doesn't chart numbers. I mean, you're breaking down everything. You know what the guys ate for breakfast on Nationals Day. I I go by feel and I go by what I see, and sometimes that bites me. And Kevin kind of does what I do. I've been doing okay, but you've done really well, and we're going to jump in right now with why you do really well at most of your pools. And I'm just going to list your top 10 in your rankings, and you ranked everybody in the field, which that's a tall order. But you start out, you move Kyle Larson up to number one ahead of Brent Marks. Then you have Donnie Schatz third. You have David Gravel, Carson Macedo, Brad Sweet sixth, seventh Brian Brown, Gio Scelzi eighth, then Logan Shoehart ninth, and Rico Abreu 10th. Okay. First off, how do you come up with your rankings? What do you use to kind of position these guys? Again, we have how many drivers here this week?
I believe
100,
102, 103.
and you rank them all in order. How do you do it?
So, I go back and I've been charting these for years. So I look back at the last 3-year average of the, Knoxville World of Outlaw races. So any race that the World of Outlaws have raced here, that's what I'm looking at. Looked at previous national appearances. Also this year, I started tracking all of World of Outlaw races. I do the average, I do them, but other than the average, I break them down by half-mile track, quarter-mile track, 3/8 track, and a 4/10 mile track. So I have numbers for each and every race that they do. Then I also have to do a 10 race average and a 5 race average.
Yep.
So I've got a lot of data that I like to go through. I am a numbers guy. I work in Las Vegas. I work in a casino. You have to be thorough with what you do. That's one of the things, that I love about the job working there, is so like when I come on here, I'm just not willy-nilly it,
I'm willy-nilly.
I'm given what the numbers say. Numbers to me don't lie. Numbers don't lie over a long period of time. I understand the gut thing. There are some things that, I take, for instance, with the gut thing. Kyle Larson.
Yeah, you're breaking out of your mold here.
Kyle Larson moving him to number one over Brent Marks. Brent Marks has won practically everything this year in sight. Should be number one, but what I saw from him last night, that's my number one right there. If he can drive, because I know he can do that here. I know he can drive it in harder than everybody else here does. And I think that's a big factor. But hearing him say, yeah, we're getting comfortable, that was what I wanted to hear.
Having Brad Sweet sixth on this list, I know he hasn't been good on half miles. I get it. But his recent performance, did that move him up on the list?
Actually, it did. Yeah, I had him at 8th at one point, but winning at Williams Grove, he did win at Peely, even though it wasn't a half mile. But up until Williams Grove, he'd only had one victory the whole season. So he's won his last 10 races now. His average is right up there. And that's, it's about a 4.1, 4.2 with his average. Brad's consistent, but it still goes again to the half miles. His half mile average this year is only about a 7.3. And so I think he's right where he should be. He did bump up from 8th to 6th in the final rankings for that. Am I going to be surprised if he wins here? Absolutely not. I will not be surprised. But from what I've seen, from what the numbers show me, he's a top 5 car.
Best half mile guy, and again, I'm gonna challenge you here. The best half mile guy with the Outlaws this season has been David Gravel. Yet you have him 4th.
I do because I think you've got Kyle and Brent number 1 and 2. I don't think that there's any doubt about that.
Okay.
Donnie's Donnie.
Yes, he is.
And looking back at the last 3 years of Donnie's average here at Knoxville in Knoxville races, he's at a 2.1, his average. So for me, that's why I'm going Donnie 3rd. Last year I went out on a limb with Donnie, in the Nationals when Donnie wasn't running well.
Right.
And I said, no, I had him ahead of Sweet last year. I had him ahead of a lot of guys. You and Ryan were kind of, I don't know.
No,
about
yeah, we
this,"
were, and we took it on the chin for
you
it.
know, and he took second last year.
Yep.
There is a different approach, it seems, for Donnie when it comes Nationals time. And I absolutely think I am not going to be shocked if Donnie wins on Saturday night here. I won't be.
I'm picking him, and that's it. Now, Ryan isn't here. For people who follow the show with how our picks go, I will post them at some point because I got to talk to him, and then we'll take care of it. He's, like I said, he's working on a car. Hint. But one of the guys that I find interesting in your top 10 is Rico Abreu. You know, Gio Scelzi sat on the pole here last year. I get it. Logan Shoehart. It doesn't matter where he starts, he's going to get to the top 5, it seems like, most of the time. Rico Abreu, his year, he didn't win until he came to Speed Week in Central PA. It's been better since. Ironman last week didn't help him. But he won the All-Star race here. How did you gauge where to put Rico coming into this event?
And they also came and ran a couple of weekly shows here as well. So he's got some track time this year. I just feel with Rico, winning the All-Star race here was huge for me with that, because it was a field of everybody except for the Outlaws. So for him to win that race, and the way he did it, he came through the field too. That was impressive.
Yeah, we talk about dirty air.
Yeah.
That didn't bother him.
But I think with what him and Ricky Warner are doing, I think they're really gelling, and they're gelling at the right time. They've really been gelling the last since Speed Week. When a little bit before Speed Week, he went out there, they won. He didn't, have a great cue sets, when he was there, but he won the Speed Week, and they've been seem like they've been firing on the right cylinder since. And then they get here for the All-Star race, and he was back in dirty air. That was an impressive drive, and I was like, okay, with Rico at that point, I had my mind made up that he was going to be a top 10 guy right there at that point. He was a little bit higher. Him not racing the Capitani was a little surprised with.
I was actually surprised by that too. I thought he would race it, especially coming off the Ironman in which he struggled.
Exactly. And so, he came back on Saturday to produce the 6th place finish at the Ironman. So I would have liked to have seen him race on Sunday, and he didn't, but with Rico, with how he does like to drive, he gets around Knoxville pretty well. Ricky Warner there and Ricky knows this place. Ricky's done some magical things with a car at this place, and what I thought he did for the All-Star race was another one of those magical things.
Yeah, and some of the guys you have from 11th to 20th, you have Tyler Courtney, who I think is surprisingly good here. Aaron Reitzel is number 12. He's been good all week, like won the 360 National, 3rd at the Capitani. Not so good at the Front Row Challenge, but that's a different animal. They weren't even planning to race that event. They went out because of the Mr. Iowa Speed Week points. So, but he's been good at Knoxville. So I think that's an interesting pick. He's leading the points here with 1 race to go. Brian Brown did not have a good run at the Cappy. He was coming down the backstretch, challenging for 3rd in the heat race, and got upside down, got it up in the fluff. And it was his Knoxville car here. But that doesn't concern me either, by the way. I don't think that it matters what car Brian Brown's in when you get here. But Aaron Reitzel looking really, really good. Anthony Macri, you have him checking in at 13th. Then you have Parker Price Miller, who we talked about already, at 14. Sheldon Hahn Shield at 15. Justin Peck 16. Spencer Basin 17. Then you have James McFadden, Corey Eliason, and Kerry Madsen. Now, out of those, I think interesting, Sheldon was not good on Sunday at the Capitani Classic, but he's had some moments here.
He has, but with Sheldon, here's what I'm concerned with. Since he won Huset's, 15 races, he has not won a race, and his average finish is 11.13 in those 15 races. So he's not even averaging in the top 10. So that tells me they're on the wrong side coming in to Nationals right now. They're just there for whatever reason. They're not running well. He did have the 24th at Weed Sport, which we've all seen.
Which was wrong, by the way.
But I can't factor anything different into the numbers for that.
He was running, I think, eighth or ninth. I think, when he was battling with Larry White, it was in the top 10.
Yeah, he was in the top 10. But he still gets credit with the 24th, but he hasn't won in 15 races since the Huset, the big one at Husets, and so I just don't feel that they're really doing well coming in right now. And he didn't even make the A main at the Capitani on Sunday night, and that's not how you want to be coming into nationals.
Right. I mean, he is a guy who can. When he rattles off wins, I think he can lead the Outlaws in wins this year.
Yeah,
Because he could when he heats up.
he's at 7, I believe, right now.
I think
7 or 8.
Yeah, 7 or 8. When he heats up, he's good. He's money. It's
but his
the lulls.
His half mile average this year on half mile tracks is, he's in the 9s for his half mile track average.
Right.
So with the last 15 races that he's done compared with what his half mile average, they're kind of comparable with each other. And I just think there's other guys on the list right now who are coming into nationals who not only are racing better here, but I think just racing better overall with whatever series that they're at right now, whether it be Outlaws, All Stars, or Knoxville guys. And so Sheldon for a long time was in the top 10, but he just, when I figured out the average
right
since his last win, it was just like, I can't have him in there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to turn it around, this is the week to do it, and certainly that team can do it. Anthony Mackie's interesting. He leads the nation in wins.
Yes, he does.
With 17, and you have him 13. I think that's a really good spot. I was encouraged. I liked what I saw the other day at a Capitani Classic. Solid top 10 run. Bernie's in his camp. Bernie knows how to get around here. And then he goes to the Front Row Challenge, finishes 3rd. The speed is translated from Central PA to out here. And he's coming off that Race Redeem win as well.
Exactly. And that's where I look at the Race Redeem at I-70 Speedway, Motorsports Park there. That was huge for him to win outside of PA, not only to, in a sense, shut people up. I think to kind of even prove it to himself that, hey, we can do this outside. Having Bernie's huge.
Yeah.
Bernie knows how to get this place. Bernie's cars always get around Knoxville well. Does not matter who seems to be in it. I remember when Jamie Veal was in it back,
oh yeah,
7-8 years ago, and he got around this place. That's what Bernie does, and so Mackie was good last night. He was good at the Front Row Challenge. He just got Kyle Larson.
As did Carson Macedo, who I believe you have 5th on your list. So James McFadden's an interesting guy too, because he's had an awful year, but yet he's not bad at Knoxville.
He's gonna qualify really well.
Yep.
For McFadden is
I think he was tops in the Capitani Classic.
I believe you're right. Can James get through the heat race? And can he stay out of somebody else's mess? It seems like if there is a mess, he somehow seems to find it. Not that he created the mess, but somebody in front of him did. And he's had a lot of bad luck with that this year on the tour. It just seemed like he gets into other people's messes, or somebody gets him, and it's just, they're fast and he'll qualify well. I expect him to qualify within the top 5, but can he get through that heat race?
Is there any surprises on your list that maybe somebody that we didn't think was going to be this high? Or is there anybody you were surprised at when you ran the numbers? You were like, how did he end up there?
I think there's a surprise. Kerry Madsen at 20 is a surprise because Kerry Madsen, just like James McFadden, has not, had a great year in the Roth 83 junior car this year, but he still gets around this place really well.
Yes, he does.
And you have to factor that into it. Another one who really is surprising to me, and especially this week, JJ Hickle in the
20. JJ Hickle. That's Ryan's favorite guest on the show. He loves JJ.
In the 25 Eganberry car. We were impressed with that car last year when Boguski was driving it, especially at the Front Row Challenge. Him to make the main like he did here on Sunday night in the Capitani, and then to back it up, started 4th in the Front Row Challenge. Did go backwards a little bit, but he showed some really good speed. One of the questions we had last year was the resources. That car has resources, and I think they've got a really good driver, an underrated driver, and he's one that will not be surprised if he creeps into Saturday night's 24 a main event.
Wow, that again, I like it. I like JJ a lot. I like that car a lot. It has speed. I like the look of it. Just plain gray. Our boy Jovan Schultz, I'm sure would like that car, as you know, Joe as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Can't help it. But from a rookie standpoint, we hear all the time about the rookie race that we have. We have Buddy Kofoid here. We have Justin Sanders here. We have Corey Day here. Much anticipated rookie start. Out of your rookies, who is rated the highest?
Buddy Kofoid is rated the highest in that car. And you saw Buddy here Sunday night, drive the Capitani, qualified well, ran a real good heat race, got out front, and it just looks smooth. When you look at, Corey Day, you look at Justin Sanders, guys who still don't have a ton of laps around here. Where are they from? They're from California. What does California race mostly? Bull rings. They still have a tendency to kind of pitch the car a little bit sideways, going through the corners here, which it scrubs off speed. You've got to be smooth. You've got to be straight here. I know Buddy had the mishap in the Capitani where he jumped over the cushion in 1-2 and dropped about 5 or 6 spots, but Buddy's a racer. Buddy can climb into anything and he can drive, and they have things clicking. Think he goes Wednesday or Thursday?
I think he's Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. We'll definitely have that in our next segment.
For Buddy, if he's going if it is Thursday, which I do think you're right now, he needs to qualify early. If he's somebody who can go out within the top 7 or 8 cars, I wouldn't be surprised if he's quick time.
Yeah, I was surprised. Justin Sanders, who's in the Swindell Speed Lab car, and by the way, you have Buddy 25th overall, I believe, on the list. Justin Sanders is your next rookie, and I was surprised by that a little bit because he's only been here one other time, and that was in a 360. He ran a 360 Nationals. The team struggled with a vibration in the motor. Justin Sanders was sick at times through the 360 Nationals. Felt more comfortable as the weeks gone on. I'm interested to see how he performs. He is a super talented driver. I say he's the best driver in California right now. Him and Dominic Scelzi. Dominic Scelzi's not here. Justin Sanders is. How do you view him? You have him in your top 40.
I do have him on my top 40. The Swindell car. It has at times here shown some really good speed. I do remember the year that Spencer Basin was in the car, went second quick on his qualifying night, and then they had the scale mishap, and then they DQ'd him, but then it wound up the scale. Something was actually wrong with the scale, and then they let him go the next night on Thursday night, but they didn't give him the same qualifying position because I think he went out second.
Right. I remember that
night, but they didn't give him the same qualifying spot. And here in the Nationals, qualifying is everything. You get a bad pill draw and you lay down 2 bad laps, you're coming back and you're racing Friday night in the Hard Knocks night. And so, but it has shown speed, but there have been times this year with the Swindell car that while it's showing speed, how durable has it been?
Right.
Durability is a big question with it. I did factor Justin's previous experience in the 360 here. So he does have some laps here in the car on this track. So he's not just coming in blind, never seen it before. So that, so I figure, he's probably ranked about right where he should be.
35th, I think you have.
Yeah. And Corey Day, I believe I have
67th.
40, Corey Day here.
40. Oh yeah.
47th.
Yep.
I got Corey Day 47th, and they've been out here for maybe about a month now, and you've seen bits and pieces of him, of flashes, but it's still a learning curve. Ask Ryan Timms about that.
He has not looked good this week.
No,
it's been rough.
Knoxville's different though, and people don't seem to. Knoxville's different.
I'd say Southern Iowa Speedway is different.
It's tough. Especially Knoxville here, it's a technical track. And when it really, Sunday night at the Capitani, that was one of the more technical tracks I've seen in a long time here, especially for the Capitani race. Coming off of 2, if you didn't hit it just right, ask Brian Brown, look what happened with him.
Yes.
And how many laps does that guy have around this place? He's got tons of laps around this place. He hit it just wrong, spun it, and flipped it over. So, it takes time. These kids are going to be good here eventually. They are going to be, but it takes time. It takes laps, years. It takes a couple of years, especially when you're coming from the small bull ring tracks, not just in California. Tim's has done real good on bull rings. He's done good at Husets. When you translate that to this big half mile, any little bit of scrubbing speed, it's going to slow you down.
Well, it's going to be interesting when he does get to run with the Outlaws at River Cities come the end of the month. But that's going to wrap up segment 2, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Brands. We'll be back in our next segment where we break down each night. Stay tuned. Champion Oil has been a globally recognized industry leader in the specialty racing, automotive, and agricultural lubricant markets for over 60 years. Blending and packaging over 300 products, Champion knows that the commitment to quality and customer satisfaction defines the way they do business. Champion Oil looks forward to the innovations and challenges the future will bring. For more information, visit championsuschampion.com. Welcome back to segment 3, SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Brands. Jeremy Elliott and Corey Kneeshaw coming to you from Knoxville Raceway. We are on the eve of the Knoxville Nationals, and we're just kind of breaking things down and what you can expect. And now we're going to look at each night individually. And the breakdown is, while it's close, like 8 main qualifiers from last year and the point guys for the Outlaws split and All-Stars, that's all well and good. I still think Thursday's harder.
I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, it is. When you look at who's at Thursday, you got Kyle Larson, you've got Carson Maceda, you got Brad Sweet. that could be your top 3 right
and
there.
Brian Brown.
And you've got others. I think Tyler Courtney goes that night as well. So there are a lot of heavy hitters in that Thursday one. Not to say Wednesday's not.
No, it's hard.
But looking at the field, I think there's more potential guys who could win their preliminary night on Thursday than there really are Wednesday.
Let's jump into it. Wednesday. I think the favorites, I think you'll agree with this, is Donnie Schatz, Brent Marks, David Gravel, and Gio Scelzi. Why do I say Gio Scelzi? Well, sat on the poll last year, and I paid him $2,000, which we're doing the SprintCarUnlimited.com poll award again this year. So Gio said to me last night, he said, well, hopefully I get the poll again. So he likes taking my money. But those 4, I think, are the clear-cut favorites. Is there anybody maybe I'm missing, or are you pretty much in agreement there?
Those top 4, but I would also include Logan Shoehart, Rico Abreu. I definitely think, qualifying, they can qualify well here if they get through their heat race, especially Logan. We talked about it already today. If he can start anywhere near the front row of the preliminary main, he could do what he did here Sunday night, and he can check out, and he can put himself in a good position come Saturday. Rico could do the same thing, but you're looking at Gravel, you're looking at Schatz. Brent Marks can race. It doesn't matter where he starts. In this format, though, where qualifying points are so important, you want to be in the top 10 of qualifying.
Yep.
If he's stuck in rows 8, 9, or 10 for the main event, that means he didn't qualify well. And then, he'll race his way up, but
will it be enough?
He might have to come back through the hard knocks. But his qualifying program, since he went back to his home car, has been so much better than it was when he was on the Outlaw Tour for the 2 years.
No, I agree. And I kind of have a contenders thing, and that's where I have Shoehart, Reitzel. Aaron Reitzel was also running that night. And here's my sleeper, Justin Henderson. I know he didn't perform well at the Cappy. I get it. I think he had some qualifying issues, but it's a lot of laps here, and wouldn't be the first time that guy's put it in the A main on his qualifying.
No, it wouldn't be, but he has struggled here this year, though. He struggled when the Outlaws were here in June. Yep. He didn't make either show. Then there have been issues where he's ran one lap and broken. So for Justin, we saw it last year in the Capitani when I think he ran top 5 there and looked really solid.
Right.
I just haven't seen that from him this year. The consistency hasn't been there. I think he'll make the A main, the preliminary night A main. He should be able to do that. I just don't think he's going to be in contention for it come Wednesday night.
Well, we'll see. That's the beauty. And then I have kind of like another category for Wednesday. Storylines to watch. Sheldon Hahn show. We talked about it earlier. We're not going to belabor that point. I think, definitely with it being the Knoxville Nationals, pressure's on a little bit, but also to kind of bounce back from some of the things that have happened lately. I think another one's Justin Sanders, another California guy coming out to the Midwest. I know he puts a lot of pressure on himself to do well. It's the Swindell Speed Lab car. It's a high profile ride. Again, I think maybe not this year, but if the more he comes out here, the better he's going to be. Shane Gallagher, that's your boy. Okay, that's your guy. He 360 Nationals. He's finished in the top 5 in the finale before. This year, not so good. Got on the outside of McKenna Haase. Obviously, he took a tumble. His weekend was over. I don't know. Can he rebound for the Knoxville Nationals?
I think he can. Sunday in the Capitani, there was moments in the heat race when he was racing with Brad Sweet.
Yes.
That we hadn't seen from him, especially at this track. He was aggressive. He was like, he wasn't going to give an inch to Brad Sweet there. And when we see that Shane Gallagher,
yeah, no, I agree.
That's a better Shane Gallagher, I think. We saw some of it in the semi when he was able to hold off not only Sam Haferteef Jr., but then they were also catching Blake Hahn as well for that second spot. And for Shane, his 360 program here at Knoxville has always been better than the 410 program.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a big confidence boost for them on Sunday night to make the A main, finish 20th. Okay. But for them, where are they going to qualify? If he qualifies if he goes out in the top 10, he can lay down a decent lap and he can be in the top 20 in qualifying, which will put him probably about, 4th, outside row 2, inside row 3 of his heat race. He can make the preliminary A main, 2 years ago when we had the one and only, we saw him finish 5th here one night with the Outlaws.
No, you're right.
He's gotten better over the years. When he first came out here, he looked like the prototypical California bull ring racer, throwing it in sideways, but you've seen him progress over the years. He's a little bit more smoother going in now, a little bit more straighter coming out of it. And so, he needs, for him, making the preliminary A main, getting the top 15, maybe top 12 run, that's a solid run for them.
I think Shane, again, it's about aggression, of being aggressive. Look, I know he can drive. We all know he's talented. He's got a little oomph here. Okay. It takes I don't want to say he takes laps off, but he just races certain laps different than some of the laps. Even during that heat race with Brad Sweet, there were laps in there where he wasn't aggressive. Then there were other laps where he was. And it's at Knoxville Nationals, you got to be full tilt.
I think for him, it's being consistent every single lap.
Correct.
And that's where he needs to get to that point.
Corey Day goes Wednesday night as well. And again, we talked about it earlier. Now he has Jason Myers in his pit area. It's pretty good. He also has Shane Bowers in his pit area.
Yep.
Former crew chief for
Brock Searfoss.
So it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses. And now we're going to make our picks because I like doing picks. And since you're the guest, we'll let you go first. You make your pick, and you can only pick a guy one time. Same rules, one time throughout the week. Corey, go ahead. Who do you like on Wednesday?
Brent Marks.
Okay. All right, Brent Marks. Oh, you're going to pin me here. It's going to pin me because I know what's coming. You're like Ryan.
Yep. I've seen enough of the podcast. I know how these work.
I got to take Donnie shots because I know I have a feeling I'm not getting him the final night. So I got to take Donnie shots for Wednesday. And we're each going to pick a sleeper
Okay.
for Wednesday night. Who do you got as your sleeper on Wednesday night? Just a guy who maybe to look at who you think is going to do well.
My sleeper, I'm going to go with Hunter Sternberg.
Oh, I like that.
I think that what they've done with the Vermeer car this year, they've been very consistent qualifying. Should have won a couple more races out in, I believe it was the first New York stop that they had. He blew had a flat tire. Been at this track before. Local team here, but I know they're based out of Indianapolis now. But no, he's actually, I got him as 24th in my rankings. I think he either through the preliminary night or the hard knocks night, I'm looking for him to pick up one of those spots.
When's JJ Hickle go?
He goes on Thursday night.
Oh, that's my guy. It's always hard picking a sleeper at these things because they come out of nowhere. Brian Clausen, remember, has a preliminary night win.
That is true. Yes.
So that always makes it difficult. I think. Now I could go because I think Justin Henderson would qualify as a sleeper.
Yes.
And it's been a little rough. I'm going to take Justin Henderson as the sleeper this year. I know he didn't perform well at the Captain. He just has so many laps here. So that's my guy. So now we're going to talk about Thursday. Thursday, I think it's more heavy hitters. You do as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And, obviously Kyle Larson, top of the list, defending Knoxville National champion. Brad Sweet, a Knoxville Nationals champion. Then you have Brian Brown, who's finished second numerous times. Carson Macedo, who's looked really good here. Good on half miles. Philip Dietz turning the wrenches. Am I missing any favorites?
No, I think you nailed all the favorites right there. Yeah.
I just think there's nobody to add to that. Contenders. Tyler Courtney's sneaky good here.
They have been, yeah. First time that they came out here a couple years ago in the wing car I'm not sure, I think it was during the pandemic year, 2020.
Right.
And they came out right out of the gate and was top 5 qualifying. I think he finished 7th there. But for somebody who has not, I know he ran non-wing here before, but putting the wing on, it's different. But you got to equate, I kind of equate Knoxville with Eldora with Tyler Courtney. He's been so good at Eldora in the non-wing. They were able to translate that with the wing. And so I have him, that's why I have him 11th there this year. Was telling my brother earlier today that if he won on Saturday night, would not shock me. It wouldn't be an absolute shock. I don't expect it, but it wouldn't be a shock though.
No, and I think Rico Abreu is another contender, not a favorite, but a contender. I think he's a guy who runs well here. Obviously, he's won the Hard Knocks program already in his career here, and look, he won the All-Star race a couple weeks ago. I know he's not coming off a very good Ironman weekend, but look, this is Knoxville, and that guy has in the pit area, that Ricky Warner fella, he's pretty good here too.
He knows a little something.
He might. Kerry Madsen, I have him as a contender. Anytime that guy rolls out here, I think it's something changes. I know they haven't been good. I know they're using a Toyota. Still, he's good here. He has top 5 runs in the finales here. I think Kerry Madsen fits into that mold. I know you have him 20th, I believe.
Yeah.
But I still think he can be a contender on that night.
I agree. There are more, like I said, there are more heavy hitters that night. With it, will it surprise me if Kerry Madsen goes out and runs 4th, 5th? Absolutely not. Locks himself into the Saturday night main. No, it really won't. But like we talked with McFadden earlier, he seems to get into a lot of other people's messes as well.
Kerry's last year over in turns 3 and 4, the big wreck, so to speak.
Well, even here in June on the front stretch, the one heat race that took out, just kind of hit the guardrail, bounced off of it. And, so it's avoiding, if you can avoid those things, if he can run a clean race, he's a top 10 car.
And I think that's the key at the Knoxville Nationals. There are those heat races and that A main or preliminary night A main. regardless of which night it is staying out of trouble. Now we're going to look at some of the maybe guys to watch or storyline guys. Obviously, Spencer Baston. We haven't said much about him. You mentioned him earlier in the Snell Speed Lab car. He's in the CJB car. It's been good this year. I think it's been a good rookie season. I've said all along, I can't believe this guy didn't get a shot in a major ride, that it took this long. I think that's crap. So Spencer Baston's a guy here. That car's run well here. People forget, like you said, David Gravel, perfect night in that car. Car has speed. Watch Spencer Baston.
I would agree with that. Barry does know a thing or two about wrenching
A little
around this
bit.
place, and so Spencer Benson, as you said, he's been really good this year with the World of Outlaws. He's consistently had some top 10 runs with them this year. Last weekend at Peevely, ran 8th, both he had a 10th and a 12th, I believe. His average is right around 9.75 this year, running with them. Does have a win. This is one, I'm not going to say it's his favorite track. He gets around this track pretty well though, and he's been in numerous cars here over the years, and so to see this is the best car he's been in, so if he can go out 5-10 range for qualifying on Thursday night, somebody in that 5 to 10 range is going to lay down quick time.
And don't forget the one and only, that whole week he was good.
Yes, he was. He was in Bernie's other car.
He was in Bernie's car,
Yep.
But he still can get around this place. Anthony Macri, you win 17 times and it's only August, you're going to get mentioned. And I think he's a guy to watch. If Bernie always has that car fast. Look, he's Charlie Garrett Motors. I think Charlie Garrett Motors are the best motors in the industry.
Brian Brown lives by him.
Brian Brown's pretty times well. Anthony Macri lays down good laps. Coming off a top 10 in the Cappy. He made the A main last year through Hard Knocks. Let's not forget that. And third at the Front Row Challenge. The year's been pretty good. I think he puts it in the A main. And I think he can do it on his qualifying night because he's going to time well, I think. Watch Anthony Macri.
I won't be surprised if that happens with him. For him being able to go out and race outside of PA as much as they have this year has really been beneficial for them. They went to Bristol, they ran Bristol.
Yep.
He's run a lot of the half-mile races that the World of Outlaws have run this year, looking back and doing the stats this year. So, he came here in June. It was out here Sunday. Looked really good yesterday, like we talked about at the Front Row Challenge. So he's got the speed, and whenever you have Bernie in your corner, you're starting ahead of most people are here.
Yes. And Buddy Kofoid is another guy that night who, anytime that guy touches the track, he's just so gifted, so talented, and he's smart behind the wheel. He's aggressive when he needs to be. And I just think, we saw him in Houston's. He got his first outlaw win. He was contending for the victory.
Yes.
In the finale. And I think Sheldon kind of caught James McFadden and Buddy napping, went around him. Credit to Sheldon for that. But Buddy was in the hunt. And I think big race, the big stage isn't going to bother him. It's whether that car qualifies well. I think that because he's going to race. He can race.
Yeah.
So Buddy's going to be interesting.
Buddy is somebody, and I'll throw this out there. Thursday night, because of the loaded field, I'm not going to say he's going to struggle. I don't see if Buddy's going to qualify for Saturday night's main event. I see it Friday in the Hard Knocks. That's where I can see Buddy coming from.
Yeah, I do as well. I mean, that could be. He's got to lay down a great lap in time trials.
Yes.
And then he's going to have to maybe finish 4th in his heat race or something like that because he's going to start obviously in 3 or 4 in the heat race, and then he's going to have to kind of top 10 it, 8th or better or something in the preliminary night A main to make it. Picks.
Well, I got a sleeper for you. We haven't.
Oh yeah, sleeper. Your sleeper. Who's your sleeper for? Well, we're gonna make our picks and we'll do our sleepers.
No, my sleeper for Thursday night.
Okay, sleeper. Who do you got?
I got a Thursday night sleeper that I have is Darren Pittman in the 27th.
Ah, yes.
He's been take the 360 out. They
blew a motor.
Blew a motor. Okay, Capitani was fast. Yeah. Front Row Challenge last night, he was fast.
5th.
He's having fun. Yeah. And I think for Pittman, the whole fun thing of going back to Hefner, he wanted to have fun. He seems like he's having fun right now. They're fast right now. And, I think a solid top 10 Thursday night, if he can do a top 10, I think he'd be tickled to death with that. Top 10, top 12. I think they would be tickled with that for Thursday night race.
Yeah, I mean, the Hefner car is not had a great year. I mean, Devin Borden ran it, and there's some mild success. Then he comes out for the World of Outlaws, jumps in the car, and he made both A mains at the Summer Nationals. Came out here, was decent. I mean, he didn't get really a chance to do anything in the 360s because he blew up in a heat race. And then last night again, 50, qualified in the top 5 for the one flight for the Capitani, and that's key. That's critical. Has a lot of laps here. It's not his favorite joint, but like you said, experience can sometimes win out at the Nationals. Who are you picking? I guess I go first.
You go first.
Sucks, but I go first. Who are you taking Saturday? That's the thing. Is you could take one of two guys. I'm going to take Kyle Larson. Got to take Kyle Larson because I don't want you to have it.
I'm taking Carson Aceto.
Okay, solid. Did you see that new car?
No, I have not seen it yet.
Oh,
no,
it's a beautiful car. Could be. They have two of them. Cole Maceto's in the second car, and one's kind of has that almost, I don't want to say lime green, but it's like a different type of green and black, and then of course the blue and black. So sleepers. I'm going to go first on the sleeper just because I want to on my show. I'm going to pull rank. JJ Hickle. I got to have my guy. JJ Hickle. I love JJ Hickle. I think they're fast. He's been pretty good. And I think a lot of laps here now. He's been running here weekly. So go get him, JJ.
My sleeper for Thursday night, I already said Pittman. I'm not going to take him. Cale Thomas.
Solid. He's looked really good. I think he was
really
top
has.
10 and 360 Nationals.
He really has. And that car, Cale to me is an underrated driver. And so to see him back, this is, I believe, his second stint with the 49X car. He was in the 101 car earlier this year, but to see him back there, I think, that's my sleeper. That's one of them.
I forgot about him. I actually like your sleeper. I mean, like your sleeper a little more than mine. No offense, JJ. It's just
I do have JJ ranked higher in the rankings though.
Well, I get that. Cale doesn't have a lot of laps this year, but I think he's looked really good in that car. So that's a solid pick. So now we're gonna go to Saturday. All right, you pick first. There's so much that goes into it. Like I said, I think it's critical. You got to time well. You got to get through that heat race. Donnie Schatz is, I think it's the only person who's won it from the B main, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think there's anybody else who's won from the B main, won the A main, Saturday's A main from there. And on top of that, you got to get through that preliminary night A main. We saw that last year, and you're just holding on. You're running sixth, and you had a good, time trial lap. You had a good heat race, and you're just hoping to survive and finish at that point. We saw obviously the mishap last year over in 3 and 4 that took out a ton of cars, and Kyle Larson was this close
Absolutely
to not making it through there. And I think that was the whole weekend to me.
Correct.
So what do you got on Saturday to win the 61st Knoxville Nationals?
This is tough because I've
you have the field. That's why
I've got 2 picks with it. So it's like kind of my heart and the gut. They're a little different right now.
And I had to burn my 2 because I didn't know who you were going to go with. So go ahead.
I'm taking Donnie Schatz.
I like it. That's who I want.
I'm taking Donnie Schatz. I'm not taking Kyle Larson. Even though I have him in my rankings.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot behind Donnie. I think
he has something to prove.
Even
though I don't think he does, I think people chirping.
But this is his first one without his dad. This one's going to mean a lot.
You know what?
This one's going to mean a lot. And for him to go out there and I believe to get this one without his dad, I think may mean the most to him.
That's a very good point. I can't take Kyle. I'm going, because I said this before I got out here.
Yep.
And I got to make sure that Ryan doesn't see this before
you
make our picks. I'm going to go with Brad Sweet. I think he's been fast. The Williams Grove deal, In fact, Brad and I talked. He looked at me. He was in victory. He says, "How do you like that?" I'm like, Williams Grove was the only place, one of the few places where people could gain ground on. And I know Williams Grove and Knoxville, there's no correlation between them.
None whatsoever.
However, the half mile things behind him,
Yep.
the Williams Grove things behind him. He talked about Knoxville in 2 interviews I had with him that weekend.
Yes.
I think a lot's going into this week. They didn't go to the front row challenge. In fact, nobody from KKR. In fact, the only outlaw there was Carson Macedo. I said Brad Sweet leading up until I saw Donnie on Sunday night. That changed it. So I'm going to go Brad Sweet on getting another half mile win, getting another Knoxville Nationals, and going into high limit. Too soon. Going into high limit and everything that goes with that with a Knoxville Nationals win.
Yeah.
$175,000 this year.
I'm not shocked, but yet I am, because Brent Marks was on the table, and you didn't. I thought, the PA chords would pull at you there a little bit.
Do you listen to this podcast?
I do.
I'm look.
But
I like
the year he's
Pennsylvania.
had, though.
I know, but here's why I did. I think Brent's going to do very well. It's not that. This is an Eldor.
Which he has had really good success at.
Eldor, I said all along this year that he's going to win one of those races out there. And I didn't pick him, which makes me look stupid, which is fine. But that being said, Knoxville's different. I don't think he's as good here. I mean, he won a race here, but he also finished 22nd.
Yes.
So, everything's got to come together for Knoxville, and not that saying he can't, but I just think there's a few other guys who are just win now here. Brent will get his time here. I just don't think it's this year. So, and Brad, to me, it's a 3-horse race. It's Kyle, Donnie, Brad. So we'll see how close we get.
There we go.
That's going to wrap up this edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast presented by Wicked Brands. I want to thank Corey Kneeshaw from Circa Sports for joining us this week.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Need to get this gambling thing going in this for the Knoxville Nationals and sprint car racing in general. Could take it to the next level. Just say it.
We are we're working on it. We talked about this last year. I met with the sportsbook director of Circa Sports, pitched them the idea. They took it to our compliance department, and right now that's where it's at. And they're working with the Iowa Gaming Commission. It won't be here this year, but the hope is we can get it on board for next year. And by as early as June, we could start placing odds on future bets to who could win the Knoxville Nationals.
That'd be fabulous. Then we got to get other races involved.
Yes.
I'd love it. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this edition of the podcast. And look, enjoy the Nationals. We're ready to go. And we'll be back next week with another show. Stay tuned.